Namaste. I am Divyasri Ranatha. I feel extremely happy to introduce different parts of saxophone and explore more on this instrument. Saxophone has been a part of my life, and all my life have been exploring different things about saxophone. So to introduce what is saxophone, saxophone is a gap between woodwind instruments and brass wind instruments. Although saxophone is completely made of brass, the material used for saxophone is brass, and although it is made of brass, it is called as a bridge between these two different families of wind instruments because we use something called as wooden reeds in this instrument. To introduce what is saxophone, how is saxophone made? Saxophone usually has 4 parts. It is made of 4 parts. So fundamental parts are 4 and they are the bell, the bow, this is the body and the neck. Saxophone has 25 tone holes and 600 parts in total. Moving on, let us see the origin and history of saxophone. Saxophone was invented by Adolph Sax. It was invented in 1840s and patented in 1846 in Paris. The material used, as I said, it is brass, which is an alloy of copper and zinc. The main objective behind invention of this instrument was he wanted to invent an instrument which could sound both like flute and clarinet. And thus saxophone is a mixture of these two instruments. Moving on, let us see saxophone family. Originally, saxophone family was a big family which was of 14 different varieties of saxophones. Presently, we have 6 different saxophones or types of saxophones, namely soprano saxophone, soprano saxophone, alto saxophone, tenor saxophone, baritone saxophone and bass saxophone. So sound is generated with single reed and the reed is a wood made one and this is called as woodwind instrument. This instrument acts as a bridge between woodwind and brass wind instruments. There was a huge gap or large gap between these two families of wind instruments and this saxophone acts as a bridge between these two instruments. Moving on, let us see where is this instrument used. This saxophone is used for jazz as well as classical music. We can see saxophones in orchestras and also in classical concerts. Moving on, when we compare the saxophone with other woodwind instruments, the range of saxophone is widest. Let us see different parts of saxophone. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 fundamental parts, that is the bell, the bow, the body and the neck. So let us see the parts of the neck. Neck is made of 2 parts, the neck and the mouthpiece. A mouthpiece is of different varieties which will be discussed later. So mouthpiece and a ligature. Ligature is held or used to keep the reed intact. Then we have a neck which is having a cork and an octave key. Moving to the body, we have pearl keys and thumb hook, octave key lever which is used for having the octave key. and tone holes. This is the keepers and the tone holes. Moving on to the bow, we have bow and a bow brace, which is used for the support of keeping the instrument. Then we have bell, which has a bell and a key guard. Apart from these parts, we have a key screw or a neck screw, which is used to keep the neck tight and intact. Then we have a body to bell brace, which is a connection between a body and the bell, and it is soldered. And we have joint rings, which is used to joint bell with bow and with body. Further, let us see what is a reed. So reed is usually attached to the mouthpiece with the help of a ligature. This instrument, saxophone, is a single reed instrument. So sound is generated by the vibration of this reed. Reed is made of cane, which is usually hollow in the inside, and it is cut into 4 pieces, and then the cane is shaped and this shape is brought. We can say that no two reeds are similar, and it becomes very important for the player or the learner to choose the correct reed to produce good sound. Let us see what is taper. Taper means to become progressively narrower. Here in saxophone, you can see the end is narrower and the beginning of the saxophone or the start of the saxophone is broader. So what does this make? How does this make a difference? The pitch of the instrument, the tone of the instrument varies as the angle of taping changes. When we see a soprano saxophone and a clarinet, at first instance, we feel both of these instruments to be similar. But clarinet is striped cylinder where there is a small bulge in the middle of the clarinet. But in a soprano saxophone, it is conical. It is narrower in the end and broad at the beginning. Alto saxophone, tenor saxophone and all other saxophones are conical. When the saxophone was originally invented, it was conical and it is kept as it is from the day it was invented. So different taper will give different tone and pitch. Because it is tapered and not cylindrical, the sound of the instrument is very near to the human voice and we can give different expressions through this instrument. It can also be used as a solo instrument because of this taper. Let us see different parts of mouthpiece. So we have facing, table, the distance between the reed and the mouthpiece is the tip distance and the tip opening. And we have a baffle. Baffle makes a big difference in the sound produced. There is an impact on sound, tone and the pitch. The geometric structure of the baffle makes a important element for a learner and a professional when they choose a mouthpiece. To tell in a simplified way, the nearer the reed is to the baffle, the sound and the pitch and the tone is better and brilliant. We can see mouthpieces in different metals. We have plastic mouthpiece, This is the one which is a plastic mouthpiece. We have brass metal mouthpiece, stainless metal mouthpiece, wood mouthpiece, etc. Usually the player chooses the mouthpiece according to the sound he wishes to produce from the saxophone. Let us see the making of this instrument. First, different parts are made at different levels and kept for assembling. First, the bell is made, then the other parts. The bell is made of brass sheet, which is made into a fan type, then hammered to bring this shape. After preparing the bell, they prepare the bow. Bow is usually made of two brass sheets which are folded and made into a cylindrical form, then bended using a hammer. Then we have this body which is also made of a brass sheet in a cylindrical shape. Then this cone shape is brought by taper. After making the body, the tone holes are carved. These tone holes are carved and processed and kept in a electrostatic room where there is no dust. After making all these different parts and kept in a room, these are brought to the assembling unit to assemble. The assembling is made through soldering in a thread manner. This is called as thread soldering. Tone holes are done using a process called buffing process. After this process, there is another process called dye from inside to outside, where a inside part of the tone hole is brought outside, which acts as a support to the pads, and thus it does not allow the air to escape from the holes. After this assembling, after everything is double chucked, after the keys are attached and the screws are attached, the saxophone is chucked twice and thrice to make sure that the air is not escaped and the keys are proper. After making this instrument, it is again kept in a dust-free room. Later, the neck is prepared. Neck is also made of brass, where a brass sheet is hammered to this shape. Then we have the making of the octave hole and attaching the octave key to that. And thus, the making of the instrument is complete. Stay tuned for knowing more about this instrument. Thank you for watching.